Hey guys, welcome to Hillbilly Wrap-Up. I think that's what I called the show. Is it Friday? Yeah, Friday. It's been a crazy week. It's Friday, June 27th. It's good to be here with you guys. Yeah, it's been a crazy week. And obviously, I guess I will deal with the whole Z-Man situation first. Not that I have a lot of information. Um, I don't know if I'm the one that broke the news. I think I did. I'll just kind of take you back what happened so you guys are all on board. As you know, as you probably don't know, well, you probably know, but maybe some of you don't know. My co-host on Wednesday Wrap Up, Z-Man, sadly died, I believe on Thursday. I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure of the exact time. And I had just done a Wednesday night show with him. We did a show, it's still up on YouTube and Rumble, where we talked about Iran and Islam and the whole history. We had a guest on. It was a really good show. It was a very Z-Man show because Z-Man, he was an intellectual type and he liked to really dig into a topic. Of course, Z-Man, he made his mark, not by being as a co-host with me, he made his mark on a blog. The real Z-Man blog.com, which is kind of strange because there's not many bloggers anymore. That's a sort of a thing from the past, but Z-Man was always really, he wrote well. He was good with the written word. I think he talked really well too, but I think his strength was in writing. He could really turn a phrase. And he had a blog that I read every day. That I don't read many blogs, to be honest. I don't follow much content every day. I look on X every day and I watch some YouTube stuff, but there was no one else that was like the first thing in the morning, 8 o'clock Central Time. I knew his blog would be published, his post for the day. And I usually have at that point breakfast and read his blog. It was a tradition. And then on Fridays, I really enjoyed it because he did his podcast. And I would sometimes frequently travel to Fayetteville on Friday. And I'd just listen to his podcast as I would drive up to Fayetteville. And it was I always enjoyed his podcast too. He had a great voice. He had like a voice for radio. And I always liked Z-Man because I felt a connection to him. We were close to the same age. Z-Man was 59 years old, in case you were wondering. And so we were like about 3 years apart difference, but we kind of grew up in the same era. And we had a little bit of the same background. He was poor when he was a kid. I wasn't poor, but I wasn't rich. I was a middle-class family. And I think his parents split up. My parents split up. So we're a child of divorce. And he got some opportunities because he's a very intelligent man. I think he got some scholarships and went to Jesuit school and got some really good education. And I was also at the time academically inclined, and I got my education. And then he went in the tech field, as did I. So we kind of had a similar path in our lives. It was interesting. Not exact. I don't think he ever married or had kids. And I've been married twice now, and I have 2 children. So a little bit different. And then just recently, he moved from Baltimore. He lived years in Baltimore. I don't know why he lived there so long, but he did. I think it was close to his contracts. He had a lot of successful consulting businesses. And it was really funny because he talked about like the SPLC, they doxed him, and that's what they do. They try to do intimidation. If you have views they don't like, they try to get you fired. And they tried that with Z-Man, but it didn't work. the people that the SPLC called, they said, we like this guy, go fuck yourself. So it was great. So as Z-Man, he didn't really care. He was still active in the business world. He's a sharp guy. And he also sort of did this thing that we're in. And I also liked him because we're similar. We're just not like a one issue type of guy. And Z-Man was just never focused on one thing. And, the type, they just focus on, this is the issue. This is all I'm going to talk about. And it's okay if that's your thing. I find that a little boring, to be honest. I think Z-Man too. So Z-Man loved to talk about economics, about culture, about history, all sorts of things, right? He also taught current events. He loved to study about revolutions and Russian history. And I'm kind of the same way. And we both had a view of politics that I think, maybe I'm prejudiced, isn't like wacky crazy. It's just, we're normal people, live normal lives, but has some success in life. And we're not trying to be, some people get into this sphere and they just get nutty. And he was a very, I think, pretty stable guy. So I always liked his writing and his perspective. And he was always a must read for me. And I only met him once at American Renaissance, and we got along right away. And most of the time at the last American Renaissance, there's a lot of breaks in between the speakers, and afterwards there's kind of a party. I think we spent most of our time together just talking because I found him fascinating. We really got along. So that's the only time I've ever met Z-Man. His name was Chris, but it's funny. Even in person, I called him Z-Man. Chris is his name, but we had a lot of good conversations and everything. And when my Wednesday show, I was trying to do my Wednesday show. Originally, I was trying to reboot Happy Homelands, but that didn't really work. And I had my host was Alicia, and Alicia was fine, but it just wasn't. We didn't click well. It was Alicia's, her strengths are in other areas, more the wife, the mother, the traditional type of thing. And I'm more into the politics. So that show just didn't work well. It's really my fault. And so I was looking for another host. I thought, well, Z-Man would be great. And I thought he was looking to get into streaming type of thing. And he joked about it. He said, well, even before I asked him, someone asked him, said, you should work with Ramsey Paul. And Z-Man said, well, I think we'd get along well. Would probably have good shows, but I got to be careful with Ramsey Paul because all his co-hosts, they end up bad. Like Tina Veek, my first co-host, she ended up dying at an early age of 37. And then, Styx Hexenhammer briefly was a co-host of mine. And he joked that Styx ended up in jail briefly for a domestic violence thing. But it's nothing I had to do with. So Z-Man was saying, it's kind of a risk doing a show with Ramsey Paul. And I have to laugh about because I'm sure Z-Man would have found that funny too. So I guess if anyone wants to be my co-host, make sure you have your life insurance policy up to date. But we got together and we started to do Wednesday wrap-up. And I thought it was one of my best shows. Of all the streams I do, is one of my favorites because he's a very intelligent man and I can go in deep with him. A lot of people I can't, but with him I could. And he was entertaining though too. So he wasn't like boring. Some people are real academic, they're very intelligent, but they don't present themselves well. He had the ability to take some complex topics and kind of share it with lay people and make it understandable. And he had a great sense of humor. Z-Man, I stole a lot of his phrases. Like he talked about the Hollywood people, he would call them carnies. And I use that all the time now, the carnies. And he's the one that really made popular the term the dissident right. He never liked the term alt-right, even before it got kind of messed up. But so he was kind of big on that. And so he had a big impact. A lot of people read him every day. And I think a lot of famous people, important people in the government actually read him too. Because again, he didn't come across as, I think the world is flat, one of those type of kooks. He came across as a fairly intelligent guy. And so he had a lot of influence. And we need more people like that, right? We need people that aren't just kooky people that believe in aliens that are taking over the world, or the world is flat, or whatever nonsense. We got way too many of those. So it's good to have a guy that was kind of level-headed and intelligent. He was very, you couldn't say he was ignorant or stupid. He was very bright. So we had a show and I thought it went well together. And I was thinking, it's just a matter of time. He's just going to blow up, get too popular for me, and go on his own thing. I always thought he was extremely talented. One of the things I did when I do these shows, I can kind of spot pretty quick who just has, I don't know how you describe it. They either have it or they don't. And it's more than intelligence, it's more than you talk. I see some people, I'm like, they don't really have it. And other people, like Z-Man, they have that quality about it that he could have been extremely successful in this sphere. I mean, he was already, but there's no reason he couldn't have been like a Tucker Carlson level. I mean, he was, I think, that level good. But sadly, his life was ended short. And so he lived in Baltimore and he moved to West Virginia, which was kind of funny because he understood he lived around diversity in Baltimore, high crime, went to West Virginia, and he talked how he loved it because you don't always have to look over your shoulder. It's all white people. It's in a rural area. And I could relate to that because I moved to rural Arkansas. No diversity around here. People don't lock things up. It's, it's not perfect, but you can relax. You can't relax around a certain demographic. So he moved to West Virginia, and he had a couple acres or something, and he had a home there, and he had his garden, and he had his cats. He had a big jungle cat and stuff like that. So he seemed really happy, and I knew he was very active, prolific. He did his blog every day, then he did his podcast every Friday, and then he did a lot of interviews and stuff. He did the show with me. So he was a busy guy. Plus he had his, I guess, real consulting job. So he was definitely a prolific type of a guy. And he was working on a book, which sadly, I guess, won't get out now, but I would have definitely got that. So that's kind of a build up to Z-Man. And so it's not like we were best buddies. A lot of people, they kind of misunderstand just because you do a show with someone, they assume that you know them real well and you're talking like every day. People assume that with me and Tina Veek. I liked Tina a lot. I thought she was great, and I met her a couple times. She invited me to Finland for a conference, and we had a great time together. We had a really great connection, but it wasn't like I talked to her every day or we were super close friends. Not that there's anything, there was no problem between us. It's just, she had her life, I had my life. And that was the kind of the way it was with Z-Man. I really respected him, and I think we were friendly with each other. And I guess you say friends, but we weren't like close buddies where we hang out all the time. If he lived here, we probably would have. But so I mostly knew him from a professional basis. I didn't know his day-to-day life or anything like that. So what happened then, the whole story is how I found out he died. And there was some, I guess, misunderstanding. I found out I got a telephone call from Lydia Brimlow, who's the wife of Peter Brimlow, VDare. And she made it know. She said, hey, I used to do some work for them. And I hadn't, my iPhone came up and it showed her name. I'm like, what the heck? I hadn't talked to her in like 7 years. I'm like, hey, Lydia, what's up? It's been a long time. She goes, oh, some things, but hey, I got some bad news. And I'm like, oh, great. What's happening now? I thought there'd be like a hit piece coming out or something. Another Ramsey Paul hit piece. And she said, oh, no, we got we were notified by the sheriff that Z-Man was found dead, and they've kind of ruled out foul play. So it's nothing to do with foul play. And I thought she said last night, so that would have been like late Wednesday night after the show. And so I put out a post to everyone saying, God, I asked her, could I post this? She said, yeah. So I put out a post to everyone saying that Z-Man passed away last night. I did this on Thursday, and from natural causes. Now, I just want to clarify a couple things because the last night part, I don't know if she said that or I misunderstood it. What happens when there's something like tragic or a big shocker? I don't know about you guys, but my mind kind of, I'm trying to process it and I can't. Sometimes I miss the details, so I have to hear it again. So I may have got that mixed up. I'm not sure when he died, if it was late Wednesday night. I think it was probably Thursday morning, but I really don't know. So I got the call Thursday afternoon when I was working in the lawn, outside in the lawn, and I saw she called me. I called her back. And then I said he died of natural causes. But again, that was my assumption. All that she said is that it wasn't due to foul play. So that's all I know. I assume, maybe he had a heart attack or stroke, but I'm not really quite sure if it was an accident or something. So if I find more details, I'll share it with you guys. I just don't honestly know. So I'm not going to speculate because I just don't really know what it was. I think Z-Man seemed to be in pretty good health. He's a big guy, heavy, but he wasn't super obese or anything. And I don't think he was a smoker. He'd have a drink or two, but yeah, he seemed fine to me. So it was a real shocker at the age of 59. So that's what I heard, and I posted it out to everyone so people can see that. And I know a lot of people thought at first it was fake, but I wouldn't joke about something like that. And so, yeah, that's where it is now with Z-Man. So a couple of things going forward. I haven't really thought about what I'm going to do on Wednesday. Obviously, I'm not going to do the Wednesday wrap up with Z-Man. I mean, it's going to be, I may do a show by myself. I haven't decided. Yeah, I got to figure that out. But I'll probably do something on Wednesday. Maybe if I can find another co-host that's willing to risk the curse, maybe I'll do that. We'll see. We'll see. I'll have to still think about it because it's still fresh. And the details people ask me about, like the funeral arrangements, I just don't have the details yet. And again, if you follow me on Ramsey Paul on X, once I get the details, I'll share it to everyone that I can. I just don't know myself. So that is sort of kind of the summary of what happened. And as I kind of went over it today on my Substack. If you join my Substack, I did a private video today kind of explaining what I knew. And that was basically it. So people have asked me to write a tribute and stuff, and I don't know. I'm at the age, once you get older, what really sucks is you start to know a lot of people that die, and you start to get tired of that. And not just people you know personally, but people you grew up with or knew as a kid. Like I used to watch the television show MASH. Remember MASH? It was like a hit show. And almost all the actors now are dead. It's just amazing. So as you get older, you see these people that were kind of in your life that just go away. And it makes you think about your own mortality. It has for me for a couple of reasons, but I know, I got to make the most out of life. And I think all of you need to. You don't know how long you got. Everyone assumes, I'm going to live to be 90 years old in good health and I'll die. Yeah, you don't know that, right? You really don't know that. So you got to make the most out of life while you can. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't throw caution to the wind or you shouldn't prepare. But at the same time, you just can't really, you just don't know how long you have. So I don't know what other tribute to do to Z-Man. Again, I didn't really know him that personally. I don't think he had much family. I think his mom and father died a few years ago, as did his brother. That's what I heard. So I don't think he had many close family. I think he had a niece is what he had left. So in some ways, I kind of felt bad for him. He lived alone, but he seemed happy. He seemed like a guy that was world reflect, liked to read and stuff like that. So I think he had enjoying his life on this little acre in West Virginia with his cats and his garden, and he was always busy traveling. So that's kind of the update with Z-Man, and he will definitely be missed, not just for me. He's one of my best co-hosts, but I think we'll all miss him because he was one of the top people I really respected. Like I respect Jared Taylor in different ways than Z-Man, but in many ways I'm more similar to Z-Man than I am Jared Taylor. So it was rough, but I'm trying to give you guys just all what I know. And so thank you for that. So we will continue, and I will do the show today. I want to go over some stuff in the news. And when I get more information, like I said, I'll release it. But so that's what I know. I don't know anything more. You definitely have all I know so far. I already got some super chats and stuff, and thank you guys all for this. I'll go over this. and then we'll get into the kind of the program. Drew, before the show, $20. Rest in peace, Z-Man. Yeah, I know Z-Man. He was raised Catholic. He was still Catholic, so I'm hopeful he's in a better place and everything. So, yeah, definitely rest in peace, Z-Man. Robert, $5. Rams, as an opening tribute to Z-Man, when did you first discover him? You know, Robert, I don't know the date. I followed him for years. I don't know the exact date I discovered him. Someone probably sent a link and I enjoyed his material. And I've been reading his blog, it seems like forever. And what did his writing do for you? He seemed to be well liked by most people. Yeah, he was. He kind of called it like it was. And I get that's another fact I liked about him. Some people didn't like him. Because well, for example, the whole Nick Fuentes thing, he was a big supporter of Fuentes initially. Then when Nick took kind of a weird turn, Z-Man would do some criticisms. And that's what I like about Z-Man, sort of like myself. We could talk about Trump, and there's a lot of things I like about Trump, a lot of things I haven't liked about Trump. And so I don't look at things as binary, like either someone's all good or they're all bad. And that's sort of a cartoon way of looking at things that's really common now. I don't do that. But a lot of people do. Like a lot of people, because I understand in order to get the donations or whatever, if you're going to be Trump's fanboy, you better support him no matter what he does, because that's your audience, and you don't want to piss off your audience, because you piss off your audience, you won't get the money. And a lot of people do that. I've never been that way. I've always been truthful to you guys about my opinions. It doesn't mean that my opinions sometimes haven't changed, and sometimes I am wrong. Rarely, but sometimes I am wrong. So I'm not infallible. But if Trump does something I don't like, I'll call it out, even if people get pissed at me. And Z-Man was that way too. And I respected that about Z-Man. Someone that's just not you take one side or the other, then you never question it. So that's one of the things I liked about him. Damien, $20. Did Z-Man take the jab? No, he didn't. Z-Man was one of the early people. Another thing, we were connected during the whole COVID thing. Sometimes it felt like Z-Man and I were kind of on an island that were skeptical about the whole thing. And Z-Man is very analytical, and he looked at the data, and I'd like to look at the data too. And we saw that it wasn't adding up, and Z-Man did not get the jab. Please let us know if the family needs money for funeral expenses. Thank you. I will let you know that. Again, I don't think he had much of a family left, sadly. And I don't know his financial condition, but I assume Z-Man was doing pretty well. He had a successful consulting business, and I think he did well in life, but I'm not saying he was rich, but I think he did pretty well. So I will let you guys know that. So thank you. Drive Away Destroyer, $100. Thank you. Very generous, by the way. Your co-hosts don't seem to end up well, unfortunately. 2 deaths and a mental breakdown. 2 deaths. Who was the mental breakdown guy? I'm not quite sure who the mental breakdown was. The deaths were Tina Veek and Z-Man. And unless you call Styx as a mental breakdown. Styx has always been kind of he was always like, I'm a Satanist type of guy that supports Trump. That was his kind of shtick. I like Styx still, by the way. I still like him. He brings interesting perspectives. But yeah, now he's like that pirate hat, vampire type thing. But some of that I think is for show. So I don't know. Styx has been through a lot of stuff in life, a divorce, and I think a divorce. I'm not sure of the situation, and the whole girlfriend, domestic abuse, and that all that can really wear on you. And I'm sympathetic. I've never been in that. I've been divorced, but I've never been, domestic abuse or anything like that. So I think it can be hard on people. So I wish Styx the best. I'm still a Styx fan. So It's not like I'm anti-sticks or anything like that. But yeah. All right, let's see. I got a super chat. Nice to hear your kind. This is Lester. Nice to hear your kind words about Z-Man. Love you both individually, but your shows together were great. Yeah, that one of the things that pisses me off. We had a really good show. So darn it, Z-Man. I mean, I I finally get a good co-host that I'm really link up well with. And I'm not saying that to diss my other co-hosts, but I have to be honest. I think my interactions with with Z-Man were better than, let's say, Tina. And I thought Sticks and I did it pretty good. Sticks he's pretty good at the gig. He knows how to talk well. But I think even with Z-Man, it was better that the back and forth we had. So that is unfortunate about him. He was a good guy, so I definitely will miss it. K-Max, $10. Rams, I saw Jared Taylor, Z-Man, Kevin McDonald's, and James Edwards as the guy you respect the most. I do. I do respect Jared Taylor. Jared Taylor I've met many times. As I tell people, he's a very genuine man. Even though he's extremely brilliant, he's probably smarter than all of us, but went to Yale and the whole bit. But very humble man, very genuine. I really like Jared Taylor, but I don't have the same connection with him as I did with Z-Man, just because Jared's older, different generation, and a different circle. I don't know. And Z-Man and I had a little bit similar background. Kevin McDonald I met. He's a nice guy. He's very intelligent. Again, I've never been like friends with him. I've just met him when he's spoken, said hi. James Edwards is a great guy, and I really admire what he's done. Again, I don't see him much or keep in contact with him much. Yeah. Would it be awkward to say that you could tell legit good men versus the grifters, men of character? Yeah, sometimes. And sometimes people, they kind of lose their way. I was a big fan of Richard Spencer back in the day. If you guys can believe that, I thought Richard Spencer, he was eloquent. He was a good speaker. I thought he's fairly smart. And but then sometimes people they get the power or whatever, the whole thing goes to their head, and it leads them down a wrong path. And Richard he became very full of himself. There's a lot of people, and I won't say any more names, but they become very full of themselves. But Z-Man, Sasha just brought that up the other day, was always a very humble man. And he would just, talk to like Sasha, and he was, Sasha, I know you. And they were talking, and Z-Man was a really down to earth sort of man. And Jared Taylor's the same way. Kevin McDonald's a real nice man. I don't know him well personally. I just met him a couple times. And James Edwards is a great guy too. And again, I met him a couple times in real life. Again, we haven't had much time to talk, but I'd like them all. Yeah. So mostly you just have to see in their long term what they do. The people that tend to be grifters, they tend to do wild oscillations from one topic to another based on what can make them money or whatever. And so, or they're trying to play, they try to get more radical to get more money or whatever it is. So that's it. And let's see here, Zoom Gadget. So sad he died. He really looked forward to his retirement. Yeah, that was the thing. We talked a little bit about that too. And he said he wasn't going to retire. He was going to retire. He planned in a few years from his I guess, real work, but he was never going to stop, because we joked about that. He said, no, if I ever just had to retire and do nothing, I would die really quick. And if I just had to sit around and watch TV. And so he was never going to retire from, I think, writing or doing podcasts or anything like that. So yeah, he was a busy guy. And I guess the good thing is, I think at the end here, I'm glad he didn't die in Baltimore, but he died in West Virginia. I think he really enjoyed his new place, and he was happy about that. So yeah, it's definitely, it's sad to see him go. And so that was it. And Rant, Timnex, It would be a good thing for someone to collect Z's writing so it doesn't disappear. Yeah, he's got a lot of stuff on his blog. Hopefully, people can scrape that off, and there's a lot of good stuff there that will keep up. And that's the thing. It's kind of weird. Someone dies and their digital footprint stays up for a while. I was kind of hoping that Z-Man would have his podcast today because I think he does that in advance and maybe he automates it to publish. That would have been weird, publish after his death. But yeah, I do. I mean, Z-Man was very influential. He was more influential than I think people give him credit for. A lot of people stole a lot of ideas from Z-Man, the pretty famous people. Hey, I stole stuff from him. I was honest about it though. So yeah, he will definitely be missed. He was kind of a deep character. A lot of people are pretty shallow, and they're not really. I mean, they may be a personality or they have big tits or whatever, but there's nothing really there. But Z-Man had a lot of depth. So yeah, I guess that's first half of the show here, just talking about Z-Man. And so I'm not going to belabor this point. I mean, we all got to go sometime, I guess. And I wish him the best and his memory. And when I get more information, I'll share it with you guys. But that's all I know literally right now, because again, I didn't really, I never went to his home or anything like that. And I don't even know his personal phone number, his address, or anything like that. All right. Well, your friend Christy from Texas. Christy, it's so good to see you. I've known Christy since at least 2013. I've met her a couple times at American Renaissance. I always connected with Christy. Christy's always one of my favorite people that sadly we don't meet that often, but when I meet her, I really like her. Very nice lady. Thanks for the tribute to our friend Chris. He's a great guy and will be missed. Thank you, Christy. Yeah, definitely he will be. I got a super chat from Nate Sherwood. A devastating loss. God bless you, Z-Man. Thank you. Yeah, it definitely was. It's tough. Like I said, I don't want to see anyone go, but to be honest, some people could go, and it really wouldn't. I mean, that matters to their family, and in the cosmic sense, it matters. But you have some people that are just like key. Like I dread the day, God forbid, when Jared goes. Like, what's going to happen there? Because he's so a rock. And there's a couple. James Edwards you put in that category, and I would put Z-Man was in that category too. Then you got a lot of entertainer types, like I said, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if they should go, they go. Who cares? I mean, we've already had those types go anyway, not through death, but through I'm no longer on the right. Now I'm left wing, or that we already speaking of Richard Spencer. So we have some flaky type people that doesn't really matter as much if they go on and do something else. So yeah, that is a sad thing. So thank you, Christy, for that. All right, I thought we go. Got a little bit of time left. I want to go over stuff in the news, and we'll do that. And if you have more questions or super chats, I'll take them too at the end here. But life goes on, politics goes on, and Trump. One of the things Z-Man used to say, it was kind of funny, that Trump has a talent. He could fall into shit, and he always comes out smelling good. Trump just has this ability that you could think is over for him, right? And it looked really bad. The base was fracturing over the whole Iran thing. There's no way out. And then there he goes. And he had all those legal problems, but he overcomes those. Trump is amazing that way. He's larger than life. And Trump has rebounded well. And I saw a statistic that he's on, for this point in the presidency, he's one of the most popular presidents ever. So good for Trump. A couple of things that came out. The Supreme Court did some great rulings for Trump. And here's some of them. Now, this is overstated to a degree, ending birthright citizenship, not that hasn't been decided. That's been delayed. But as of now, based on the executive decree, Trump ended birthright citizenship. So that's the law right now. But the Supreme Court didn't affirm his executive order. They have delayed discussing it. So they're going to bring that up again at some time. But for now, they didn't overrule him. So it's the law of the land now, but it hasn't been codified, if you will, by the Supreme Court. I hope they do, because Trump has always brought up, and Trump is right, the birthright citizenship. We know this because the people that put that in the Constitution, they wrote about it. It was for freed slaves to make sure their children were citizens, right? So if the slaves had the baby would be a citizen of the United States. It wasn't meant for Mexicans or whoever can fly over here and some woman plop out a baby and then that's a citizen. It wasn't meant for that. And so that right now, that will be huge if you could get rid of that. So we got it. Pretty good news. The court didn't strike it down right away, but again, they're going to come back to that. Suspending refugee resettlement. Let's see here. Freezing unnecessary federal funding, ending funding to sanctuary cities, and stopping taxpayer funds for transgender surgeries. And so those were some of those. And one of the big things that came in from the Supreme Court is they kind of bitch slapped down all these federal judges trying to put these injunctions on. The Supreme Court has limited that. So that is a good thing. So Trump's doing well. He's got a lot of favorable results. And one of the results, I think this is obviously a good one, is just in the Supreme Court rules, parents can pull children from public school lessons that use LGBTQ storybooks. Well, it's sad it had to go to the Supreme Court. Obviously, the schools are supposed to work for the parents. And if the schools were reteaching religious stuff, obviously the parents wouldn't have to have their kids exposed. And this whole gay agenda is a type of religion. It's satanic, but it's a religion. And children don't need to be learning about various forms of homosexual sex when they're in school. Our children need to learn how to read, write, some basics of history, which they don't understand. And there's a lot of things that our children need before this homosexual propaganda. But the good news is, so you can pull your kids out if they're trying to teach it. Now, personally, I would go further. I would make it illegal to be pushing this sexual propaganda in the schools. In fact, if any teacher did this, I would consider this a form of homosexual grooming, and I would arrest the teacher. Because if you did this outside the school, showed pornographic images to a little kid, let's say in the park, you would go to jail. Just because you're a teacher doesn't give you the right to do that. It's pretty sick, and I would like to see them arrested. So that is that. All right. Trump was in a good mood because things are going well now for Trump. So let's just take a look at some of the stuff he's talking here.
So sad.
Oh, sorry. Let me get my headphones in here.
We're going to fully fund the final sections of border wall, impose a new remittance tax on money sent back to foreign countries, and dramatically increase deportations to a bare minimum of 1 million illegal aliens per year. And what we're doing is we're really going after the criminal aliens, of which we have plenty to work with. People say, well, that's a lot, isn't it? Well, remember, these countries are very smart. They're headed up by people I know. In almost all cases, they're very smart people. And they have the people of great common sense. They're not sending the good people out. They're sending the bad people out. And they put them into caravans. I think I came up with that name, but somebody did. It's a great name, a caravan. Thousands and sometimes as many as 30,000 people walking right into our country. Again, so sad.
So In the big, beautiful bill, there's provisions supposedly to get rid of up to 1 million illegals per year. And I think that's a good thing, obviously. And giving a tribute to Z-Man, he always brought up, because I know a lot of people are worried about the budgetary cost and so forth. But at this point, we got to save our country first, not worry so much about the budget. I mean, we always have plenty of money for Israel and all these wars. Let's have money being spent for things that are going to really help us. And every illegal is illegal, so they should all be deported. But Trump, they're going to focus on the violent criminals first. Okay, I mean, I get it for political reasons, why to do that. And that is, I think, a good thing. So that should be pretty good. And here's Trump talking about the Supreme Court. Well, JD Vance, huge ruling by the Supreme Court smacking down the ridiculous nationwide injunctions. Under our system, everyone has to follow the law. And so we had a problem, the judges would just some weird federal judge appointed by Obama, some left wing would try to stop the presidency from doing what he was elected, trying to really stop democracy. And Donald J. Trump here, he said, giant win in the United States Supreme Court. Even the birthright citizenship hoax has been indirectly hit hard. Yeah, it hasn't been decided. It had to do with babies of slaves, not scamming of our immigration process. And so I think it was good. Trump was very happy with some of the things that the Supreme Court did. And Trump has been working on the tariffs in the stock markets at the all-time high. I know people were saying that the stock market would crash under Trump. It's not done that. And here's Trump. He's talking a little bit about tariffs and the revenue.
With the United States of America, we'd have money coming in like at levels that they have never seen. I got a call the other day from the people in Congress because we're doing our bill. I didn't even tell you this, Mike, and they called. They said, there's something wrong with the numbers, sir. I said, what's wrong? I don't know. They're not balancing out. There's something really wrong. I said, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, we don't know. I said, what's the problem? We're taking in much more money than we have scheduled. I said, so far, that sounds good. They said, how much is it? About $80 billion. I said, do me a favor, check the tariff line. They called me back an hour later. Sir, we've taken in $88 billion in tariffs. Isn't that a beautiful thing? $88 billion. I thought I'd tell these little stories. Go off script and tell these little stories, Scott, right? Because it does make it a little more interesting. Although my speechwriters have just gotten every award in the book. Vince, where are you, Vince?
Yeah, I like Trump. He goes off script. And so it's interesting. I mean, that's one of the things that tariffs can do, obviously, that you bring in revenue from the foreign countries. And before we had an income tax in America, the federal government was funded by tariffs, like under McKinley. I don't think we could do that now just because of the size of the government. But there was a day that's how, we didn't have an income tax. So how did the government get money? Well, through tariffs. And we're seeing that. Now, the Supreme Court, it's become clear we have someone on the Supreme Court. She shouldn't be there. She's on the court because she's a Black woman. And she's, I don't know if she can read. This is just ridiculous. But the Supreme Court published an opinion that includes a section explaining that Ketanji Brown can't seem to understand the legal arguments being made in the case. And they're talking about here, and this is really a scathing review of another justice. The principal dissent focuses on conventional legal terrain like the Judiciary Act of 1879 and our cases on equity. Justice Jackson, however, chooses a startling line of attack that is tethered neither to these sources nor, frankly, any doctrine whatsoever. Waving away attention to the limits on judicial power as a mind-numbingly technical query, she offers a vision and it goes on. So basically, she has no idea about precedent or understanding of legal theory. She's a very stupid woman. It was just, this is an example when you have DEI, you put someone that's obviously not qualified in there. She's been passed her whole career because she's a black woman. That's how she got it. And she's way over her head, and she doesn't understand legal theory at all. And this is what we're having here. So it has been really sad. And we need to fix it. She should be removed from the bench. And the guy that appointed her had Alzheimer's, I think. So I think we should get rid of her definitely. All right, let me see. I think I got a couple other rants. I want to keep up on these. And thank you guys for being here tonight. I know tonight I thought there'd be a lot of us here kind of consoling each other, and I get it because I feel the same way. So the good news is I'm planning not going anywhere. Knock on wood, right? So we will continue on, because really what's important is our ideas and legacy, and Z-Man's ideas and legacy will continue on. Not just in his written word, but he influences people, and it will continue on in you. Like, I never met Joe Sobran, but he influenced me so much. He never knew me, but his ideas carried on in me, and then I can maybe influence other people. That's how it works. Pam High, $10. RIP Z-Man. I would listen to his podcast driving to my dad's house. Yeah, I like to listen to his podcast in the car. Anyone who has heart problems should look into taking a strophe and thus. It was used. It used to be make poison arrows, but it's amazing for the heart. Yeah, I don't really give a lot of medical advice, but I would say, and I don't know Z-Man's situation. I don't know if he died of a heart attack. I assume that, but I don't know. A lot of men, when they get into their 50s to 60s, especially if you have a certain body type, kind of more of a stocky guy, those type of guys tend to have a lot of heart problems, it seems like. And I don't know if that was Z-Man, so I'm just speculating. But I would, it's important to have your physical every year. I just had a physical, and get your blood work and everything. They can take a look at a lot of stuff. The good news is my heart stuff just came out well. My heart stuff was perfect, so my heart is doing well. Although some people say I don't have a heart, but yeah. All right. Sam 15388. Sorry to hear about Z-Man. God rest his soul. You guys had something good starting. Yeah, I will definitely miss him. We had a lot of good chemistry, and I will definitely miss him on that. Let's see. I got a couple others here. Nate Sherwood, a devastating loss. God bless Z-Man. Thank you. Yeah, it was devastating. Steampunk Desperado, in memorandum, $20 of Z-Man. I just can't believe it. Yeah, I couldn't believe it either. And that's why my initial post on X, I may have made a mistake when I said he died the night before. I thought Lydia told me that. But again, I was so shocked. If you've ever had a shocking news in your life, hopefully you haven't. I've had it a few times when my mother died and other incidents in my lives. It kind of freezes your brain in a way that you're trying to process it. Like, what did I hear? What am I understanding? And then when someone tells you like a bombshell, then they go on telling you this other stuff. You're not really hearing the other stuff. So, P.S. $50. Thank you. I can't believe Z-Man's dead. I know a lot of people after I posted it were saying, "Oh, Ramsey Paul's hacked," or "This is some sort of sick joke." I want to make a joke like that. And I was hoping I was wrong, right? I was hoping Lydia was wrong. I was hoping it was a mix-up. I would have loved to hope I was wrong, but no. I've been reading him for years. Yeah, me too. His analysis of mine didn't always line up. Neither did mine. I mean, I don't line up 100% with anyone, but I was probably 95% with him. But I valued his opinion and subscribed to his newsletter. RIP. Remember, the end can always be closer than you think. Plan accordingly. Yeah, you should always think about your death. That was the Stoics always talked about that every day. You should think about your death. And then it's not to be black-pilled, is to help you live, to understand that you really need to enjoy your life and make the most out of it. Doesn't mean you shouldn't, act like you should last day to live, but you should, plan in your life. But understand it goes quick. And I told people, as you get older, you will see that life goes quicker. Every year goes quicker. Because I think you're older just seems shorter. I remember as a kid going through a year, it seemed like it's equivalent to 20 years now. It took forever. But when you're an adult, especially as you get older, boy, time really starts to fly. So you will find that even if you live, let's say if you're like, oh, I'm going to live to be 90 years old. Well, that's going to come up to you faster than you know. It really will. So make the most of it while you can. So definitely a good thing there. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. And let's see here. And all right. Let's see here. We'll go back to some of the story with Trump and the stuff happening here. Here we go. We're supposed to have a deal with China. So the tariffs on China, remember, they're like 130%. Now they're 30%. And China has the tariffs on us of 10%. So that's a lot better. But there's still a tariffs, and that will generate a lot more revenue. And hopefully encourage jobs to remain in the United States. All right. On the financial matter, some of the stuff that was an issue, with this 12-day beautiful war we had. Just in, U.S. heavily depleted 15 to 20% of its global THAAD anti-missile stockpile in just 11 days, defending Israel from Iranian missiles. And that cost us almost $1 billion, $800 million. So we, and I figured this, you don't think Israel's going to pay us back, do you? No. So this was an expensive war that Israel, when they did their sneak attack, that we ended up paying for, as usual. And part of the reason I think Israel was willing to have a ceasefire, and even the United States, these missile systems are expensive, and we only have a finite supply. And we've been sending a lot of these missiles to Ukraine, and then we need an inventory in case, for China and Taiwan. So we only have so many. It's like those bunker busters. I think we shot like over half our inventory. So we got to be careful how we use them on that. So yeah, that is something. So I think that these wars are expensive, and I would like for us to kind of scale back a little bit on these wars here. All right. All right. There's been a whole debate with Trump being upset because how much damage did the United States really do with this bunker busters? And it was interesting because originally Rand said it didn't really do that much damage. It did a little bit of damage, but they could recover pretty soon. And then there was a leaked Pentagon assessment that said the same thing, that we might have put them out of commission 3 to 4 months. But now Iran is saying, Iran has just been forced to admit that its nuclear sites were completely damaged by U.S. strikes, directly contradicting CNN's claims using unverified sources. Well, actually, the Pentagon document, it wasn't. It was legitimate. That the strikes only set the nuclear program back by months. As I said, though, if you're Iran, right, what's your motivation to tell the truth? So let's say if we didn't actually destroy these bases completely, is it in your self-interest to say, hey, U.S., you missed, you didn't get it all? I mean, so I guess you got to come back, hit us again. No, you're not going to say that. You want to say, oh yeah, you wiped them out. So I don't know if they're telling the truth. The whole thing is, we just don't know. We won't know. The only people that do know for sure, probably, of the damage that was done are the Iranians, because it's deep underground facility. We could tell for sure we hit the site. We have the satellite footage, but it's a continuum. It could have just been cosmetic damage to total obliteration, like Trump said. There's a continuum there. So it's probably more than just cosmetic, but maybe it was just cosmetic. Maybe it wasn't total obliteration. How much damage did it do? We just don't know. It's very difficult to tell from satellite photos. My understanding of this, it could have wiped it out. Definitely, it could have been partially damaged. I don't know, but does it really matter? The point is this is a way that Trump was able to get out of it by saying, "Hey, Israel, you did the sneak attack. You tried to topple the government. That didn't work. Well, our big issues are nuclear facilities, so we bombed them, and we're saying we obliterated them. So that's that. That means the war's over. We're out of this." And if that's what it takes to get out of the war, where every side declares victory, I'm okay with that. Again, what really happened, I have no idea. And I don't think many people, or if anyone in America really knows, because unless you're at the site, and I've read a lot of people say you need to be at the site to really tell because it's super underground. Maybe the bunker buster was powerful enough to destroy it. Maybe not. I've heard conflicting reports on that based on the depth and so forth. So I don't know. So to me, it's not that big of an issue, though. We can use this. Hey, we did it. Let's just declare victory and move on. All right. The other thing here, and this is good news, is this breaking. Department of Homeland Security is terminating the legal status of over 500,000 Haitians. They're eating the cats and dogs. Yeah, we're getting them out of here. Currently living in the United States. So anytime we can get rid of 500,000 Haitians, that is a good thing. It's good for them too. After all, they don't want to be around white supremacy. They can go back to Haiti and celebrate with their kind without the white supremacists all around. So they should be happy. And I know we'll be happy. So excellent. So like I said, I get mad at Trump, but then I see something like that and I'm like, it's hard for me to stay mad with Trump when he's getting rid of a lot of Haitians. I wasn't happy about this bombing of Iran because it looked like we're getting sucked into another war. But he kind of got us out of this. He bombed and goes, "Hey, total victory. We're done. Total victory." People are like, "No, we don't really know if we blew it up for sure." Shut up. We totally blew it up. Understand? Okay. Yeah. Total victory. So whatever. But then, brings me back by getting rid of 500,000 Haitians. I'm okay dropping some bunker busters. If that's what it requires to get rid of 500,000 Haitians, I will do that any day. I know politics is a trade-off. So if I got to appease the Israeli lobby by dropping a few bunker busters that did, I don't know how much damage in order for us to get this thing through, I'm okay with that. Hey, I got a rant from Just Fine. Rams, lean into the Ramsey Z curse and begin selecting the CEOs of numerous NGOs that assist migrants invading the West as your guest host. Just have them on a rotating schedule. Call the herd Rams. Thank you. Maybe I'll invite Soros on. You think Soros will join me? Or I'll get Bill Gates to join me. Yeah, the Ramsey Paul curse. I don't know. Maybe Sasha should be worried. She's still alive though, but she got cursed in another way. She ended up being married to me, so maybe she got the worst punishment of all. But the Ramsey Paul curse. That's a good idea, though. Thank you for that. Very clever. All right. So anyway, that's good news about the Haitians getting out of here. All right. The other big thing that's been going on is we've had the primaries for the election in New York City. And New York City is a city of really just one party, the Democrat Party. I guess they have a Republican Party. There's hardly anyone in it, though. So the idea is if you win the primary, you're going to be the next mayor. And they have this guy. He's like this Muslim Indian from Ghana. I don't understand it either. I mean, he's a piece of shit. I don't support him. He's a Marxist and he's anti-white. But this is one of the things that, hang on here. Let me bring this up again here. Sorry about that. But yeah, he had the whole thing of, in the debate for the mayor, I don't have it queued up here, but he questioned, all the other candidates were saying, well, the first thing I'm going to do is take a trip to Israel. And they were all saying that. And he was like, yeah, no, I don't see reason to go to Israel. I can talk to Jewish people in New York City. And everyone else is, oh, how can you say that? So we got this weird thing that people don't talk about is, why should you, if you're the mayor of New York City, why do you have to go to Israel? This is just crazy. It is nuts, but everyone thinks this is normal. So they really attacked him as being anti-Semitic because he won't go to Israel. And I've heard him. I haven't heard anything real anti-Semitic from him, unless you think, well, he won't say that Israel should be an ethno-state for the Jews. Israel's a racial nationalist concept, which I don't really oppose. I kind of support that too for all countries. But you're supposed to oppose that for white people. That's the worst thing ever. White nationalism is the worst thing ever for whites. But for Jews, you got to support it. And he doesn't. And so he got the idea that he's anti-Semitic. But Matt Walsh brought up a good point too, is I don't like the people on the right that are now supporting this guy just because he's anti-Israel. And because you're going to own the Jewish people or whatever. And that's not how you should look at politics, right? Because this guy is anti-white. He's not good for our country. And it's a false dichotomy that we get into. No, we shouldn't be beholden to the Israeli lobby. I brought that up a million times. It's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing to see Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, Tom Cotton, my senator, to be totally controlled by a foreign country. It's embarrassing. It really is. But that doesn't mean we should welcome in some Indian Muslim that hates white people and welcome him with open arms just because he doesn't like Israel. Again, because ironically, you're putting Israel first in that position, being on the right. All right, because so you get the people that say the mainstream cucky Republicans, they put Israel first over America. We all agree that's wrong. So they do the policy, what's good for Israel. That's what we're going to base our policies on. But you got to be careful not to do the inverse of that and to say, well, what's ever bad for Israel, we're going to support. Even if it hurts us, we will support it. So because this guy, Zoran Mamdani, the guy shouldn't be in the country. I support this guy being expelled, but we shouldn't support him just because he's against Israel. At least I'm not going to do that, right? I can hold two positions at the same time. No, we as a government, your tax funds shouldn't support Israel. I'm not picking on the Jewish people. Oh, why do you have such Jew hatred? I'm not. This is my position for every country, right? So welcome to the club, Israel. I don't think we should support people from Iceland. And I never hear people from Iceland, why do you have such hatred in your heart, Paul, for the Iceland people? I'm like, I don't. We just don't need to support your country. It's the same position with Israel, right? So I can have that position. And I can also have a position, I don't want some weirdo Marxist Indian that LARPs as a Muslim that hates whites in my country. See, I don't want that either. So I don't have to choose one or the other. And if you're choosing this guy, that's going to hurt our interests just because, we're owning them. No, it's dumb, right? We got to start working in our best interest on both sides, on both sides. And I want what's best for our people, not just trying to stick it back to the people we think have hurt us. I get the sentiment, But I think that is a mistake to do that. And there's some talk that maybe they can deport this guy for lying on his naturalization form. That would be interesting. And I'm for deporting this guy, strip him of his citizenship. And he has every kooky position that you can imagine. Let's take a look at this here.
Do you think that we have to almost do without policing in certain areas which are labeled as being high crimes to have alternative bodies? Do the policing in a more compassionate, more merciful, more social, assisting and helping more than arresting them?
All right. Number one, both these people don't belong in America. I can tell you right now, they don't belong in America. So tragedy, we got to fix that. Well, this shouldn't happen, right? I mean, I'm sure she'd be fine in Pakistan or wherever she's from. And this little scam artist from India, he could go back to Uganda. But the question is ridiculous. You need police. If you don't, we already know this. I don't know why we're still talking about this. After George Floyd, places like LA and San Francisco, they've already done this experiment. Like, hey, what happens if we don't arrest? And they're talking about blacks, if you don't know. What if we don't arrest blacks for doing crimes? What will happen? Well, let me tell you, I can predict what will happen. You'll get a lot more crime and it become unlivable, and the businesses will have to shut down, because how can you run a business when it's being looted every day and the police aren't going to arrest the looters? How do you stay in business? You can't. You have to shut down and leave. And if you shut down and leave, oh, you're racist. You're abandoning the black neighborhoods. But you got to go. There's no way you can do it. People don't like it. And a lot of those places, they've rolled that back. And these people, they don't need social workers. They need police. And they need to be in prison. But let's listen to this guy.
And putting in jail.
I absolutely think that what we need to do is give support and funding to institutions that are trained to deal with these kinds of issues.
Well, that's the police. They're trained to deal with criminals.
As you said, if you're having an argument with someone and there's a risk of it escalating, who is better positioned to de-escalate it? Someone who is well known in the community, or someone who has been trained specifically in de-escalation, or a stranger who has a gun?
Well, see, he's doing, and I haven't seen this clip, but he's bringing out a straw man, because it's not illegal to have an argument with someone. So if you're having an argument with someone, the police aren't going to arrest you anyway. The only time they're going to show up with a gun is when it could escalate to violence, and they're there to help protect people. Having feral groups of savages running around killing people is not merciful. It's not merciful to the victims.
And we see so many situations where encounters with police, the police arrive and all of a sudden the tension rises even astronomically to what it was prior. Right. And I think that we need to say and ask ourselves, look at how policing is done in the suburbs, in wealthier, whiter America.
Right. But why is that? Because if you treat the police officers with respect, the police officers won't have to escalate with you, right? So if you look at this, if the cop stops you, and it was the old Chris Rock, I think he did this skit about this. If you say, hey, I pull you over, can you show me your driver's license or registration? I'll pull over. I'll say, yes, officer, here you go. But even in the suburbs, if I pull out my car, yeah, you motherfucker, once you take this, you son of a bitch, and I start that, what do you think is going to happen, right? That's the difference.
When people make mistakes, the answer is not to throw them in jail.
No.
Crimes are not mistakes. A mistake is like your arithmetic, right? You're adding up your bill and you forget to carry a 1. That's a mistake. Robbing someone, pistol whipping them, that's not a mistake. That's a criminal action.
The answer is not to, put them in a cage and throw away the key. The answer is to try and find a non-carceral solution.
Absolutely.
Community service, something where, they learn from their mistakes. There's a sense of accountability and growth, all these kinds of things which for many people in this country, especially Black people, are not offered the same opportunity.
Okay.
So his vision here, and he brought up blacks, is to have blacks run free and commit crimes and say, well, instead of putting them in prison, we should just offer a program once they pistol whip an old lady and rape her and steal her money. We'll offer a program where Jerome can talk to a social worker about his feelings. It makes places unlivable at that point. It's just so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. And it's pure racial. Because do you think like if some white guy killed a couple of blacks that he would have that attitude? Oh, no, don't put him in prison. Just have a social worker talk to them. Dylan Roof, don't put him in prison. He just needs to talk about his feelings about doing this. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And so we've been down this road before. I don't really care if they're going to do this in New York. Just keep it away from me. But it's just ridiculous. Yeah, we've been down this road before. And so we don't need someone like this in our country at all. And this is a bad thing. So let's see here. And okay. All right. Yeah, this week's been so crazy because of Z-Man's death and just a lot of stuff going on. It almost doesn't feel like a Friday, but it is. So we'll just end on a kind of a happy note here because I don't always like to go over everything. Is kind of got to always have some good. So I end with a dog video. This is a cute dog. Take a look at this here.
Go, Murph.
There's a dog.
Go, Murph. Go, Murph.
The dog is having so much fun. It's so cute. Yeah, dogs are great. Love them. And I hope Z-Man, he has some cats, and I think people are going to be looking after his cats. So it's good. It's good to see animals do well. Guys, thank you so much for coming here. On Monday, I have the Ramsey Paul Show. We'll be doing that. And other than that, thank you for all your support and your well wishes. I do appreciate that. And I'll keep you guys informed of any news I get from what's happening. So thank you, guys. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.